Otherwise, all members are present, along with Krista and Marge. The next item is the approval of the minutes that were mailed out from the last meeting. So did you get a chance to look over the minutes?
I'll
Any-
move for approval.
I think Mike had his hand up first. Mike
Oh,
moved
okay.
for approval. Don seconded. Any
Second.
discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Minute stand is posted. Okay, next item, public comment. Krista, did you receive any public comment?
Did not.
Okay, no public comment then. I received none. Item E, items placed at the request of the chair. There's none for this meeting. F, staff and recreation reports, Fair Board. You all received a copy of the note from Deb here as far as what's happening and what's not happening. It's unfortunate that Dunn County is not eligible for any of these grants that came out, but that's the way it is. So, and as she on her last bullet point there, if you do have any questions or anything, she's, feel free to send her an email. And if she does get any emails, we'll talk about it next month. I don't have any questions based on the report that she sent out. So, okay. Next one, Facilities and Parks Division, Operations. Scott?
Good evening, everyone. Does anybody have any questions on my written report that you received?
I see the installation of the air purification system is done at the judicial,
Yes,
and everything's working fine and as expected, et cetera.
everything is working good on it.
Okay,
I haven't, after Don's message about the CARE 11 report on these not being working how they should, or that, the investigation, I looked at the news article about it, but I haven't researched any more on it, what they have. Some of the places were satisfied with the performance of them because they were taking orders out and stuff like that. I don't know. They were stating that there's no scientific proof that it works the way it's supposed to. A lot of those
Yeah,
places.
that was pretty much, as I remember, it was kind of a mixed bag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of places spent a lot of money, like millions, on their systems.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad we didn't do that.
Yeah.
If there's no questions on the written report, I've got a few other things to let you know about. We looked at the transfer station. I've been kind of monitoring the transfer station since we got it switched over to facilities. I was kind of looking at what the electric bill was. It was $158 a month for electricity out there with nothing going on. And thought, well, that's kind of high. So I contacted Dunn Energy. They do have a fixed monthly charge of $93. So I can't get below $93, but I kind of set out my goal to get it reduced because I was at 15 kilowatt hours per day out there. We shut down the parking lot lights out there. So then just the lights on the building were on there to light up around the building. And by shutting those down, I got down to 11 kilowatt hours per day. Then we took the wall packs that are on the building. The smaller building already had a LED wall pack on it. There's 5 other lights on the main building that were not LED. One of those lights was, the photo eye was bad, so it was on all the time. The transformer was trying to fire the bulb, and the bulb was bad. So it's trying to pull electricity all the time. So we got that taken care of, shut that down, converted the other 4 to LED bulbs. Now we're down to 4.25 kilowatt hours per day. So that's just the security lighting that's on out there. Everything else has been shut down. So I'm curious to see how low my bill gets down to on there. Once we shut down the parking lot lights, it had dropped down to 141 for the next month. But that wasn't a full month on there. So I'm curious to see when my next one comes, how far I can get it down there. Aside from that, for operations portion, Rec Park is, the water's all blown down. That's shut down for the season. So we're on track for the fall or winter season. I got a call in to have the restrooms out at the parks pumped, so they'll be set up for winter. And then the next thing will be, the last thing out there is to take the docks out and get those stored up for the winter. But we wait until, last year we took them out, there was a thin layer of ice on the water starting. So give these late season boaters a chance to get out there yet and use the lake. So that's about it for operations. I move on to projects. I wanted to give you guys an update since the front parking lot at the government center is completed. Took and did some number crunching. Because what happened was with the investigation of the HVAC controls for the judicial center, which is it's on the 22 budget, pending approval of the executive committee and county board. Looking into that, I found out that through Johnson Controls, it's going to be a little more than expected, and there would have to be a server added onto the system to make it so that it's large enough to take care of that. Also, public health needs to have 3 months of data backed up to meet the regs for the state, which right now our system is not doing that. It's erasing their data, so they're not able to keep that data available for them. So upgrading, putting this server in would help out public health, keeping them in with their state regulations. It would enable us to go ahead with getting the judicial center on that Metasys system for Johnson Controls. Right now, I was looking at $66,000 for this server. So I started looking into what we had left over for the judicial roof, what we had left over from the front parking lot. Started crunching numbers. So for the front parking lot, we have a $59,254 was carried forward from the frontage road project. And then $175,000 was added by the executive committee to go toward the front parking lot project. So that was $234,254. The front parking lot project, the construction, the paving and striping came in at $208,000. So we have $26,254 left over on that project. So we can carry that forward to 22. The judicial roof project, $658,748 was budgeted. The actual cost was $337 or $337,000.
Wow.
So that leaves $321,748 left over from that project to carry forward into 22. Talking with Keith about this, initially it was talked about coming to the meeting and looking at going forward with the server right away. After more thought, it would be more beneficial to wait until in the next year. The county board, you guys on the facility committee and everyone can decide what to do with this extra money that would be carried forward, whether it would be less borrowing in 22 for projects of 22. Because, you know, it's going to be a substantial amount, 321,000 and 26,000 that would be available. So that way, if there's reduction in borrowing for 22, that'd be a beneficial thing and still get the same amount of stuff done because this was already borrowed money for the roof. So I guess I wanted to give you guys an update on that. Put it in the back of your mind for when it comes to that time.
I have a
That-
question.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
I was just wondering, we still need the server, right?
Yes, we will need the server to go ahead with the HVAC controls update.
And that would help the health department too.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yep. Being as we're at the end of October, it's not going to be critical to wait until 22 to look at adding in that server.
Yeah.
So, Mike, you got a
Yeah,
question?
Mike, you got a question?
So the carryover from that roof project,
Yep.
that's not going to get absorbed into the budget then? Will that be carried over to do additional projects that are earmarked for next year so we can borrow less next year? Or how is that? They're not just going to put it into another fund to somewhere else, are they?
From my understanding from Keith is that that's borrowed money that we would have to use it. I guess it would be for other projects. So in that case, it could go toward projects and then borrow less next year. Or, you know, I guess he would probably give a better answer as to the specifics of how that gets used. And I can sure find that out to get it, you know, to get the exact answer to let you know.
Because it was designated a capital project for capital improvements. That's the logical place where it would go to. As to where it would go to, then that's what's up for discussion. But because it was borrowed for capital improvements in the past, any carried forward funds normally went to capital improvement type projects.
Yep, that's how I understand it.
Yep. Yeah, Mike.
When do them decisions, when does that get voted on to carry forward or does that go through executive?
That will go through the meetings, but that would be, the request would start with the facilities, but that is until March, I believe the carry forwards are.
Right,
March of the next year.
right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. On to what's next, our facilities fleet. So the last I've heard on the facilities fleet, the Malibus, is that the GM factory had shutdowns in July and August. They're back up and running now and are currently working through their backlog of orders. So Enterprise will continue to monitor as far as where the vehicles are. And once they get to the point of being invoiced, then they're ready to coming off the line, and they'll let us know when those are available for us. So it's just a patiently wait thing as far as getting caught up on their building. That's all I have on the facilities fleet. You guys got copies of the financials? Is there any questions on the financials for facilities and parks?
Anybody have any questions? I don't have any. Things are, looking
I don't have
okay.
any. No.
To me, they're looking pretty good. Going on right on track, I think. So
Yeah.
that'll be good. Going on to energy. I think the last we talked about Eagle Point Solar was Dave Plume wanted the 15-minute interval data. So I reached out to Excel, to the contact I was supposed to, and found out that how the meters work at the neighbors is that the meters will analyze the peak demand every 15 minutes. It doesn't record it unless it is higher than the past in that 24-hour period. So each time it reads the peak demand, it'll ignore that peak demand unless it's higher than a previous one in that day. And then it'll record it. And that's your peak that you will get charged for. So they don't have 15-minute interval data that they can provide for us. So I reached out to Dave Plume, got all this information to him. And so he is working on those numbers that we had already sent him. So that's all I have for an update until I hear more from Dave.
Okay. I got one question, and I was always going to ask it, and I keep forgetting. As far as it goes back to the projects down in O'Galley, down there when we were having water flow issues, and they were always going to go in there and re-landscape that.
Yes.
And then that kind of, I keep forgetting to bring it up. Did that ever get re-sloped or re-landscaped or
Yeah,
whatever?
you're talking about Pineview Park in O'Galley?
In O'Galley, yeah.
Yep. Pineview Park, yes, they dug that out along the blacktop going down to the boat landing.
Mhm.
And that worked out great. This summer, the park was a lot drier. It was much more usable, a lot drier. And the Sportsman's Club down there still had plans. I haven't got an update as to where they're at, but they still had plans of taking down the pavilions this fall and pouring new slabs and then putting up new pavilions. Don't know if that's getting done yet this year or if the plan is to get that done right away in the spring. That was their intent, is to take down the cement block changing rooms and then take down the pavilions and replace the pavilions with, they were going to elevate the pavilions more so that they were up off the grade more, I guess. But I will have to check into that update, get an update from them and see where they're at.
Yeah, okay, good. Thank you. Thank you. Does
Mike,
anybody
did you have a question?
Who?
I thought Mike had a question.
I did have a question on the solar. Did you have any chance to follow up on the possibility of or checking the cost of splitting some meters out on buildings so we can put in more solar panels instead of the limitations that we have?
That's what Dave Plume was looking for, the 15-minute interval data. And instead he's got the peak demand per day. So he's working off of that. So it doesn't sound like it's going to be a possibility of splitting the meters. But I'll know more once he analyzes this data for the 24-hour periods.
You mean putting a second meter on a building isn't an option?
That's the way it sounded to me from Dave, because he didn't have the 15-minute interval data that he was looking for. It sounded like he couldn't narrow it down as to what our peak would be like that, and doing it every 15 minutes. That I will look at that from him. That'll be a question for him once he analyzes this data.
So my question is that I didn't think that would have been his portion of it. They can only, or we're only allowed, correct me, I'm not sure the number of 100,000 kilowatts or something per
Yep,
building.
it was 100,000, yeah.
So if we had 2 meters on that building, then we could have 200,000 kilowatts worth of solar panels for that building. So my question before 6 months ago was, what's the possibility of splitting the meters and putting 2 meters on that building, or 2 panels for that building instead of 1? So now we split that up and we're allowed to double our kilowatts of solar panels with
I got
the electric company.
I got you, since
And
it's 100,000
kind of-
per meter.
We're circumventing their regulation of 100,000 by bringing in just putting 2 meters on the building. And I'm sure there's a significant amount of expense involved in that. But my question, I guess, that I'd like to see us explore without putting a lot of money into it or time into it is, what kind of an option or cost would that pertain? And
Okay.
if that's possible at all, we could double our solar panels and maybe take care of 2/3 of our electrical use instead of 1/3.
I will explore that, Mike, and I will get the answers and get them back to you.
Thanks.
And I guess I have a question. Okay, I understand how the meter only reads the high point for as far as the high usage, but then they should be able to put a meter on there just that reads. I mean, we used to do that at work all the time for efficiencies on our chillers and boilers and stuff. We would monitor the electrical usage, per unit there. So I would sure think that they could install a meter just to actually put it on chart. Well, back then it was charts. I suppose it's all digital now, but anyway, that they should be able to meter that and actually see what it is all day long I would think.
Yeah, I don't know if that would involve them switching out the meters to a different style that would do that, or.
Well,
or what
this
that-
is just a chart. I mean, it was just a box. You hooked up the 2 wires on the leads going in, and it just measured the
Okay.
voltage on, well, like I say, back then it was on chart paper, but it would just,
Yep,
plot you a usage all day long.
sure. I can sure explore see if there's something out there that could be done that way, so we would have the data.
Yeah, because I agree with Mike. I think we need to explore all of our options here and, see what we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
Don.
would seem to me that Excel would do this for us, wouldn't they? They should really.
You would, you
Maybe,
would think
maybe,
so, but
maybe
they may see it differently. I don't know.
yeah, maybe the first person to ask would be Excel. And
Yeah,
if they won't do it, then maybe we can do it on our own.
yeah, okay. I'll check into it, see what I can find out.
Otherwise, some electrical contractor could do it, I imagine.
Right, yeah.
But it might be best to check with Excel first.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'll reach
You know.
out to Rick Kaiser and find out what he has to say.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Scott?
I
Did you
just
have
have
one,
a
Don?
few comments.
Oh,
I
go
got a
ahead.
few comments on energy. Just to bring the committee up to date, Scott and Chuck and Tim and I got together and kind of decided how we're going to proceed with this reducing our usage of electricity or energy. And we kind of decided we'd look at the Judicial Center first because that's the oldest building and probably the most inefficient when you compare it to the new government center and the neighbors. So I'm looking at windows efficiency, seeing what the difference is between 2-pane and 3-pane and the economics of it. Scott, I was going to look at some, what do you call them? Thermostats, the fancy ones. The word escapes me now.
That's
Anyway,
something
how they
for-
would work, smart thermostats,
Yeah,
smart, and how they would work with this new system we may be putting in to balance the chiller and the heaters in the judicial center. And then, Scott, you were also going to look at a rough cost of what it costs to put the geothermal in.
Yeah,
Ultimately, I think that would be the answer, the geothermal. And I can't remember if Tim was going to do something. I don't have any notes on that. Can't remember. But anyway, that's kind of what we discussed for the benefit of the other committee. And then one other thing that was kind of interesting, I attended a virtual seminar put on by, it was actually this morning, by the Academy of, Wisconsin Academy of Science. And pretty much the title of it was the mitigation and resiliency as related to climate change. How can we mitigate climate change effects, and what are we going to do to be resilient to what's happening, heavy rains and et cetera. And one of the sessions was electric vehicles, and there were some people talking, people from Madison and Racine. And it's kind of interesting. Madison has several patrol cars now that are all electric. In fact, they have some Teslas. And he jokingly said they can catch anybody but another Tesla. So, but he says they're working fine. And something I hadn't heard before, they have an all electric fire engine. And they just took delivery in June. So they probably don't know completely but the whole thing is electric. And see the other thing, a couple more things here. I haven't got my notes really organized yet, but oh, and then they also own some Ford patrol cars too, and I'm going to check with the person who spoke and just see what they think of those. And then the other person who spoke was the fleet, he was actually the bus fleet manager from Racine, and they're getting 9 electric buses because they got a $6 million grant out of the money that came out of a Volkswagen settlement. And I remember Dunn County was getting some of that money too, but I don't know if we ever got it. Scott, do you know if that 160,000 was from the Volkswagen settlement or if that was something else? Anyway, Racine got $6 million, and they're buying 7 buses, 9 electric buses, and they'll be taking delivery of those sometime later this year yet. And their Proterra is the brand name. The fleet person from, or one of the people from Madison said that they felt, or they calculated at least all the data they could find, that in patrol cars, you can get the payback in 1.5 years. So I think we want to kind of pursue that too. And I'm trying to get more information on that. But that's some, and they're also going to get an electric, in Madison, they're going to get an electric garbage truck. And they figure most of their ambulances will be electric soon also. So it's kind of interesting what they're doing. So we got some things we can look at anyway. I don't know if there are any questions, but that's just a brief what that meeting was about this morning.
Okay, thanks, Don. Mike, go ahead.
So what committee, or you got a committee to look into energy efficiency or something? Is that what you're talking about? You said you and Tim and somebody.
Yeah, that was Tim, was kind of interested, and then we thought we'd get Scott involved, and then I invited Chuck if he wanted to come just to make sure what was going on. But anybody else is welcome to come too. The next meeting we're going to have, I think, in January. I think we're kind of thinking about having one in January.
Yeah, we talked about
So
January.
Yeah. If we,
Well,
I don't know what the legal implications are if we meet as a committee, or we could meet that way too. If you're interested, we can certainly include you.
I would certainly like to hear about it. I mean, I'm very interested in
Mhm.
our energy use and stuff, but I just guess I have a concern about the legality of creating a quorum without a
Right.
meeting.
Right.
Yeah,
So
this,
I'll
you
check
know,
with
here.
Nick on that, just to see, what, as far as for posting with the legal posting, et cetera, on that one, because once we get more people there and we start getting a quorum, then you do run into the open meetings law.
yeah, then we have
aspect.
to open it up. Yeah.
Right. So I'll check
Mhm.
with Nick and get back to you guys on that one.
Yeah, we were thinking, at least Chuck thought, we thought that as long as we keep it below a quorum, then we don't have to. But once we get a quorum, then we have to open it up and have minutes and all that stuff too. So, but we can do it either way. I have no problem. The more that are interested in it, I think the better.
Okay, any other questions? Thanks, Don, for the report and the updates. Okay, then we'll go on to the next one. Corporation Council Staff Report, we have none. The next one, the Environmental Services Department, the Wisconsin Tract Wheelchair Agreement Update. Scott, where are we at on that?
I honestly don't know where we're at on this. The last I heard that we were sitting waiting for a trailer for this. I reached out to Bob Colson to get contact information to find out where this is all at, and I haven't gotten a response from Bob yet. So once I get that information, I'll get myself up to speed on it, so I can let you know where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Next one, item G, consideration for actions to be taken by the committee, rededication of the government center. Scott?
So the question was raised whether we would want to have a rededication ceremony for the government center. With the high rate of transmission, a ceremony probably wouldn't be something to have, but it would be something as a, whether we contact the press and get that in the press, and we do a metal plaque stating the date and the rededication of the community services building to the government center building, and have all the county board members on it, place that in the building. It's whether we should do something like that or not. So brought it forward, and I guess it was Paul was one that brought it up to me and wanted it on the agenda as an action item. Was looking for a resolution on it, as if we thought we needed to have a rededication ceremony for the government center.
Well, what are your thoughts? Go ahead, Ron.
Let's put the plaque up. Have some people take pictures and it'll be in the newspaper.
So you're, have a plaque with all the county board members' names on it and the date, et cetera, like normal ceremonial plaques have? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. Don, what do you think?
I was just wondering, there's a plaque there now. Was that, I can't remember if that was for the health center?
There is a plaque that
There's a
would have
plaque
been
in the entryway.
in the entryway.
And
I
I
believe that was for the Dunn County Healthcare Center.
Yeah, I suppose that's pretty that's probably pretty out of date now. It's not really anything near a health center anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe we should get a new one.
Mike, what do you think?
I guess it makes sense. Probably should bring it up, update it. Do it for the government center instead of the healthcare center, since it's not a healthcare center anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would be in agreement with that also, as far, I guess I kind of like Ron's idea about getting the plaque and just, yeah, dedicate it and have some pictures in the press and stuff. I'm not for having a gathering of any type at this time.
No.
Unless we put it all off until next spring and hopefully the numbers will be down. I guess that's an option too, but maybe just get the plaque and have the names on it and call the newspaper and, I like Ron's idea.
I
I
agree.
guess we'd probably have to decide on a date as to, what the date would be for the rededication to put on a plaque.
It probably should have been when we opened it up, wasn't it? But you can't backdate it, right?
Yeah, can't really backdate it, I suppose, but yeah, it went through a little bit of a identity crisis there with when it got occupied, it was still a community services building. Then it was just